The late afternoon sun streamed through the stained-glass windows of St. Augustine's chapel as Hannah Caldwell stood at the altar, her heart pounding like a drum in her chest. Dressed in ivory lace, the fabric seemed to glow against her dark skin, and every eye in the room was fixed upon her as she squeezed Leo's hand. He looked equally radiant in his midnight blue suit, the single white rose on his lapel echoing her bouquet of lilies and baby's breath. "I, Hannah Lorraine Caldwell, take you, Leo Ramsay Brooks, to be my lawfully wedded husband," she began, her voice trembling with emotion, "to honor you, cherish you, and stand by your side through every joy and sorrow, for richer or poorer, in sickness and in health, until death do us part." A collective gasp rose as she paused, her eyes glistening. The hush that followed was so profound it felt sacred. She inhaled, steadied herself, and continued, "You are my refuge and my strength. With you, I have found a love deeper than the oceans, and a peace I never knew I craved. I promise to give you my truth, my loyalty, and every piece of my heart forever." Tears welled in Leo's eyes. His voice cracked as he replied, "I, Leo Ramsay Brooks, take you, Anna Lorraine Caldwell, to be my wife. I vow to respect you, to listen, and to protect you from any storm life may bring. You are my sun on the darkest days, my shelter in every gale. I promise to love you without condition, to support your dreams, and to grow with you, as long as we both shall live." As they slipped the rings onto each other's fingers, the congregation erupted in applause and sniffles. Jenna Torres, Hannah's lifelong friend and maid of honor, dabbed at her eyes, overcome with joy. The chapel felt suspended in that moment, as if time itself paused to witness two souls binding their fates. But beneath that blissful glow, something flickered. In the back row, an empty seat bore a small placard, reserved for Alex. No one spoke of Alex Caldwell, Hannah's cousin who still hadn't arrived. Jenna glanced toward the door again, her previously buoyant spirit now edged with unease. After the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, the doors opened for their grand exit. White rose petals showered them as they walked down the aisle, hand in hand, smiles brighter than the afternoon sky. The guests made their way to the reception hall, where laughter and music awaited. Yet as the newlyweds paused at the chapel's threshold, Jenna slipped an arm around Hannah's waist. "Everything's perfect, Han. Truly perfect," she whispered, forcing a grin. But Hannah felt a cold prickle along her spine. The missing Alex, the anxious tremor in Jenna's voice. It was like the first crack in a mirror, small but enough to let a sliver of darkness in. Still, Hannah brushed away the doubt. Today was her day. Nothing could mar it. She drew a deep breath of the fragrant air, of lilies, hope, and promise, and stepped forward into what she believed would be the happiest night of her life. The reception hall at the Grand Monarch Ballroom buzzed with excitement. Chandeliers glittered overhead. Tables dressed in white and gold brimmed with hors d'oeuvres and champagne flutes. Hannah glided in, radiant in her gown, Leo at her side. The guests rose, cheering as they entered. Jenna escorted them to the sweetheart table, but her usually steady hand shook so badly she nearly spilled Leo's drink. Hannah offered a reassuring smile. "Are you okay?" she whispered just before the toast began. Jenna forced composure. "I'm fine." The best man, Victor Delgado, tapped his glass. "Ladies and gentlemen, to our beautiful couple," he began, voice warm. "Leo, I've known you since grade school. You've always been the guy who wore his heart on his sleeve. And Hannah, you've brought out the best in him." As Victor recounted childhood memories, Hannah scanned the crowd for Alex, but the seat remained empty. Jenna's gaze flicked repeatedly toward the entrance. Each time the doors opened, she stiffened. "Here's to a lifetime of laughter, love, and inside jokes only you two understand." Victor toasted, and glasses rang. Jenna clinked her glass with Hannah's, eyes distant. Next, Hannah's father, Raymond Caldwell, rose. His voice cracked as he spoke of his little girl growing into a woman more beautiful and compassionate than he ever dreamed. Tears glistened in many eyes. Even Leo dabbed at his cheek. Throughout both speeches, Jenna's phone vibrated in her clutch. She ignored it, but her thumb trembled over the screen. At one point, she stepped aside, peering down at the screen, then quickly locked her phone as Leo's mother, Patricia Brooks, approached to offer congratulations. Jenna forced a laugh. When the spotlight shifted to the toast from Leo's brother, Marcus, a hush fell. Marcus smiled confidently. "Leo, you always told me you wanted a love story that could outshine fairy tales. Today, you've lived it." He raised his glass, but as he lowered it, the hallway doors swung open with a gentle creak. Heads turned. In walked a woman in an elegant black dress, a glass of champagne in hand. She paused mid-step, eyes sweeping the room, then raised her glass. A ripple of confusion swept the guests. "Is she part of the wedding?" someone whispered. Hannah exchanged a puzzled look with Leo. Jenna's breath hitched. Her earlier unease deepened into alarm. The stranger moved toward the head table, every eye glued to her. Victor's confident grin flickered. Raymond put a hand to his mouth. Patricia rose halfway out of her chair. Marcus's toast trailed off. The woman halted directly in front of Hannah and Leo. She lifted her glass, and silence swallowed the ballroom. Jenna's legs went weak. She sank into her seat. A single candle flickered on the table, its light dancing across the stranger's calm, determined expression. Hannah's heartbeat thundered. Leo's jaw clenched. And somewhere deep inside, Jenna thought, this is it. The moment everything changes. The stranger's glass hovered in midair as every guest held their breath. Then she spoke, her voice clear. "I'd like to say a few words about the groom." Shock registered on Hannah's face. Leo's confident smile vanished. His hand tightened around hers. Jenna's mind raced. She remembered Jenna Torres's earlier glances, panic disguised as courtesy. But before the stranger could continue, a commotion erupted near the doorway. A tall man in a crisp tuxedo hurried in, scanning the room. His eyes locked on Alex's placeholder seat, then on the stranger at the head table. Hannah recognized him instantly. Alex Caldwell. Her cousin's straw-colored hair was tousled, his bow tie hung askew. Relief flooded Hannah, until she noticed his expression. Not concern, but dread. He moved with purpose, pushing through guests. The stranger's eyes met his, and for the first time, a flicker of recognition passed between them. Leo's brow furrowed. Marcus frowned. Patricia's hand flew to her mouth. Alex reached the head table, breathless. "Hannah," he gasped. "I'm so sorry I'm late. The traffic." He cut himself off as he saw the woman in black. "Elise," he said, voice tight. A ripple of murmurs rose. Elise set her glass down. "Yes, Alex. Elise Grant." She turned back to the crowd. "Many of you may not know me, but I know this groom intimately." Hannah's heart pounded. She felt the room tilt. The lights seemed to dim, as though the wedding day had been plunged into twilight. Leo's face paled. He opened his mouth, closed it, and stared at Elise as if trying to place her. Alex cleared his throat. "Hannah, forgive us. Elise and we were supposed to be bridesmaid and groomsmen, but there was a mix-up. She thought I invited her. I thought someone else did." Elise held up a hand. "Save it, Alex." She turned back to Hannah, voice soft but unwavering. "Hannah Caldwell, you look stunning today. Too bad you don't know the full story." Gasps rippled through the guests. Hannah's throat went dry. She tugged Leo's hand. "What do you mean?" Elise lifted a slender finger. "I mean that 6 days ago, I was standing in front of Leo's apartment, rehearsing my own vows, because he asked me to marry him." The words hung in the air like shards of glass. The crystal chandeliers overhead seemed to shudder. Jenna's breathing grew ragged. Leo's lips quivered. Alex clutched Leo's shoulder. Marcus rose as if to defend his brother. Hannah realized in that moment that her perfect day was unraveling, thread by thread, and she had no idea who would be left standing when the final toast was made. A stunned hush blanketed the ballroom. Hannah's mind raced. Elise, his fiancée? The stranger's accusation felt like an icy dagger. Leo's face drained of color. Suddenly, a waiter's white-gloved hand appeared over Hannah's shoulder, extending an envelope. "Miss Caldwell, this was under your chair." His voice trembled almost as much as hers. She took the envelope, her fingers shaking. It was heavy, cream-colored, sealed with red wax bearing a floral crest. She glanced at Leo, searching for the smallest flicker of reassurance. He stared back, eyes wide with shock. Hannah broke the seal. Inside lay a single photograph and a note in elegant script. To the bride who thought she knew him, think again. Her breath caught. She unfolded the photograph. Elise and Leo, intertwined on a balcony at dusk, their faces inches apart. The gold lamplight haloed them. Elise's hand rested on Leo's chest. His arm was around her waist. It was a moment of intimacy Hannah had never shared. A murmur spread through the crowd as Hannah held up the photo. "What is this?" she demanded. Vital color drained from Leo's cheeks. Elise stepped forward. "It's a moment we thought would be ours to remember," she said. Her voice held pity rather than malice, but it cut deeper than any insult. "We were planning a wedding, too." Leo swallowed hard. "It's not what it looks like." "Don't," Elise interrupted softly. "I saw the way you looked at me when you thought no one else was watching." Hannah's world spun. She gripped Leo's hand. "Tell me you didn't tell me this isn't true." Leo closed his eyes for a heartbeat, then opened them. "Hannah, his voice faltered. Jenna rose, voice trembling. "This woman has a right to speak. We can't pretend everything's normal." She glanced at Lynn, the wedding planner, who hovered beside the head table. Lynn's forced smile cracked. Her clipboard rattled. Elise folded her arms. "I'm not here to ruin your day. Well, maybe a little, but to tell the truth." Hannah felt tears sting her eyes. "Why now?" she whispered. "Why today?" Elise's gaze softened. "Because I loved him. Because he promised me forever. And I knew he was marrying you today. I saw it in the invitations. But I had to hear it from him, face to face." Silence descended. Then, somewhere in the back, a phone camera clicked. The viral moment had begun. Leo exhaled, shoulders slumping. "I'm sorry," he said, voice small. He met Hannah's eyes. "I made a terrible mistake." Time fractured. Hannah felt her breath catch in her throat. The hall spun. The glittering chandeliers became distant stars in a collapsing sky. She realized her life had pivoted on a tilted axis, and nothing would ever be the same again. The band fell silent. The guests sat frozen. A single tap of the wine glass broke the tension. Victor Delgado, best man, cleared his throat, voice unnaturally bright. "Well, that was surprising." Laughter rippled, uneasy and strained. Hannah's vision blurred. She blinked, fighting tears. Victor raised his glass higher. "To the bride and groom, may your love be strong enough to survive anything, even unsolicited toasts." A few guests chuckled. Others stared, mouths agape. Leo's lips twitched in a sad attempt at a smile. He lifted his glass, meeting Elisa's calm gaze. "May truth guide us forward," Leo said. His voice shook. "And may we find forgiveness." Elise hesitated, then raised her glass. The guests watched as she turned her gaze from Leo to Hannah. "To honesty," she said softly. Tinkling laughter scattered like broken glass. Jenna stood abruptly, nearly knocking her chair over. She slipped past the head table and knelt beside Hannah. "Come on," she whispered fiercely. "Let's get you out of here." Hannah shook her head, steadying herself. She patted Victor's arm. "Thank you," she murmured. Then she stood, lifted her chin, and faced the crowd. Hannah tapped her glass with a fork. Silence returned, thick as velvet. "If you'll forgive me, I'd like to make my own toast," she said, voice clear despite the quake she felt inside. The guests leaned in. Leo watched her, eyes brimming with regret. Jenna clasped her hand. Elise's expression softened into something almost like hope. Hannah took a breath, then spoke. "I promised to give you my truth. So here it is, today. I learned that love can be complicated, messy, and sometimes unfair, but it can also be courageous." She glanced at Elise. "Elise, thank you for telling me. I wish you hadn't had to." "And Leo." Her voice cracked. "Leo, I loved you with everything I had. I still do. But I need to know who you are, beyond the vows and roses." A gasp rose. Hannah continued, her voice stronger. "Tonight, I choose myself. I choose honesty, and the journey of discovering what true love really means." She lifted her glass one last time. "To new beginnings for all of us." The guests blinked, then erupted into applause. tentative at first, then genuine. Some wiped away tears. Others nodded, impressed by her grace. Leo's mouth trembled into a proud, sorrowful smile. Jenna sobbed quietly, proud. Elisa's eyes glistened. She offered Hannah a small, respectful nod. In that moment, Hannah realized that weddings weren't just about perfect ceremonies. They were about truth, even when it hurt. And as she sipped her champagne, the ballroom's lights blurred into a radiant haze, an ending, and perhaps a promise of something real beginning at last. The glittering ballroom fell silent as Elise Grant, dressed in an elegant black gown, stepped forward with a glass of champagne held firmly in her hand. The soft music that had accompanied dinner halted abruptly, and all eyes turned towards her. Crystal chandeliers overhead cast refracted light across the polished marble floor, illuminating every anxious face. At the head table, Hannah Caldwell and Leo Brooks sat side by side, their hands still clasped from the first toast, their smiles frozen in surprise. Elise raised her glass slightly, her voice steady. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, "I have something to say about the groom." A hush deepened, so complete that the only audible sound was the faint clinking of ice against glass. Leo's jaw tightened, and Hannah's heart throbbed painfully in her chest. But Elise did not waver. "I met Leo 6 months ago," she continued. "We shared a connection that I thought was special. He whispered promises to me, the very same words he used today." Elise's gaze moved to Leo, who could no longer maintain his composure. His eyes flickered with guilt. Elise showed a gentle smile. "I believe those promises were only for me." She turned to Hannah with compassion in her eyes. "I'm not here to destroy your happiness, but I owe everyone the truth." The crowd murmured, a ripple of shock passing through the guests. Waiters paused mid-service. A hushed gasp echoed near the back. Elise took a deep breath. "Last week, Leo and I planned a weekend getaway. We booked a flight. We made plans. I waited at the airport." Elise held up her phone, scrolling through messages. "I checked my phone at 8 p.m., expecting his call. Instead, I saw this text from Leo." She showed the screen. Hannah leaned forward as the words displayed. "I'm with Hannah tonight. Forever." Gasps spread across the ballroom. Leo's face blanched. He tried to speak, but no sound came. Elise continued, voice calm. "I deserve to have my voice heard. I deserve acknowledgement." She raised her glass. "To honesty, even when it is painful." Then she set the glass down and stepped back. A solitary tear glimmered on her cheek, catching the light as it slid down. A beat of silence. Then Victor Delgado, best man, cleared his throat nervously. "Well, that was unexpected." He attempted a smile, raising his glass. "Here's to the bride and groom. May they weather this storm with grace." The guests hesitated, then clinked glasses quietly. Hannah saw the sympathy in their eyes and felt the weight of the moment settle around her like a cloak. Leo sank into his chair, face buried in his hands. Hannah's vision blurred. Jenna stood abruptly, rushing to her side. "Come on," she whispered urgently. But Hannah placed a hand on Jenna's arm. She needed to process the scene unfolding before her, a perfect moment shattered by unspoken betrayal. Around them, the glitter of celebration had dimmed, replaced by an uncomfortable, fragile truth that would change everything. As Elise returned to her seat, a tension crackled in the air. Patrons shifted uncomfortably. Some reached for trembling champagne flutes, while others exchanged glances thick with pity. Leo's mother gasped against her palm, tears filling her eyes. Hannah's father pressed his lips together, jaw clenched as he reassessed the man he had embraced as family. The chandeliers above quietly reflected fractured shards of light, mirroring the fractured trust beneath them. For a moment, time seemed suspended, each breath drawn with the weight of fragile hope and raw betrayal. In that suspended instant, the true cost of secrets revealed itself. The tense hallway corridor was dimly lit by wall sconces casting golden pools of light over the marble floor. Hannah Caldwell leaned against the carved wooden panel, arms crossed, eyes bright with hurt and disbelief. Leo Brooks stood just yards away, his face pale and lined with regret. The distant echoes of hushed speculation drifted in from the reception hall, But here time felt suspended between two heartbeats. "You said you loved me last week," Hannah whispered, voice trembling but fierce. Leo swallowed audibly. His throat worked as if words were caught in the back of his throat. "Hannah, it wasn't like that." She pushed off the wall, approaching him in measured steps. "Not like that. You held her, you kissed her cheek. You promised her things you never promised me." Leo's eyes trembled. "I was trying to console her. She was upset, and His voice faded. He exhaled. "I panicked." Hannah's breath caught. "Panicked? You panicked, and then lied to me, the person you vowed to be honest with." A long silence stretched. Leo looked at her desperately. "I care about you. I want to tell you everything. I didn't know how." Hannah shook her head. "How? You didn't find the words for months." But last week words flowed freely to her. Leo pressed a hand to his temple, closing his eyes. Seeing her there alone, I felt responsible. I thought I could fix things. "By telling her you loved her?" she asked, stepping closer. "Leo, love isn't something you give like a consolation prize when you think someone's broken." Leo opened his eyes, pinning her with an anguished gaze. "I made a mistake, a terrible mistake. I never intended to hurt you." Hannah's chest tightened. She swallowed, forcing her voice steady. "Then prove it. Prove it now." Leo exhaled again. "What do you want me to do?" She paused, searching his face. "I want the truth. All of it. No more secrets." Leo's shoulders sagged. He ran a hand through his hair. "I'll tell you everything. I promise." Hannah felt her resolve waver. She stepped back, breath ragged. "Then start talking." Leo hesitated a heartbeat, then lowered into the nearest armchair. His hands trembled as he folded them in his lap. Hannah remained standing, rigid, arms crossed. "If you want honesty," he began, voice low, "you should know how it started." He drew in a shaky breath. "2 nights ago, she came to my apartment, upset about her job. She didn't know anyone else to turn to. I offered coffee. She cried. I hugged her. That's it. I didn't realize what I said until—" He trailed off, face contorting. Hannah's eyes filled with tears. She took a tentative step toward him. "Until you realized what you said could mean something else." Leo nodded. "I realized how easily I used words. Words I love hearing. Words I thought only we might share." He closed his eyes. "I'm so sorry." Outside, muffled cheers drifted in, reminding them of a world that no longer felt like theirs. Hannah felt as though the corridor had shrunk around her, narrowing until only her pain existed. She closed her eyes, imagining the laughter and clinking glasses beyond the doors. Leo remained seated, guilt etched into every line of his face. In that silence, Hannah realized that love could not survive on empty words or rushed apologies. She needed actions, proof of loyalty stronger than champagne toasts and rehearsed declarations. As she inhaled deeply, she braced herself, ready to hear every confession, every hidden truth that had shattered their vows. The ballroom door slid open on silent hinges, and guests leaned forward, their expressions a mix of curiosity and disbelief. Phones appeared like sudden blossoms of light as cameras tilted to capture Leo and Hannah through the hallway's glass panel. A hush, thick as velvet, wrapped the space. The live feed flickered onto the big projection screen, where overhead speakers transmitted every move. Hannah stood rigid, her reflection mirrored in the glass alongside Leo's desperate silhouette. They watched themselves become an audience to their own heartbreak. Victor Delgado cleared his throat in the reception hall, stepping closer to the podium. Folks, looks like we have some extra footage tonight." Laughter cracked, nervous and brittle. Guests exchanged uneasy smiles. Phones continued to record, screens illuminating anxious faces. Jenna's grip on Hannah's hand tightened, thumb tracing nervous circles on her palm. Hannah felt the entire world shrink to the luminous rectangle showing her pain. She fought the urge to turn away, but remained still, absorbing every detail. The way Leo's shoulders slumped, the haunted look in his eyes, the tremble of his hands. It was intimate, too intimate, exposed for viral consumption. Someone in the back shouted, "Play it again!" Before anyone realized what they said, cheers erupted, The crowd gathered around table clusters, lifting phones higher. Conversations buzzed. "Did you see that kiss? He looked so guilty. Poor bride." An echo of whispers became a roar. Hannah closed her eyes, head ringing with shame. She tipped her chin up, challenging herself to remain composed. Leo placed a finger against the glass, his silhouette appearing like a wounded animal begging for mercy. A finger traced down the cold pane, mirroring tears forming at Hannah's eyelashes. For a moment, their fingers aligned across space, separated by glass and betrayal. In the hallway, Leo's voice cracked through the speakers. "Hannah, please." His plea traveled through phone speakers, jagged and raw. Phone batteries drained as viewers replayed the moment, not realizing the cost it inflicted. People recorded their reactions as much as the scene itself, inadvertently compounding Hannah's humiliation. Jenna pulled at Hannah's elbow. "We have to leave." Her whisper was urgent, but Hannah took one last look at Leo's pleading face, silent across the dividing pane. She realized that the world buzzing around them could not offer sanctuary. The balcony's cool night air called to her. She exhaled, decision crystallizing in her mind. Without a word, Hannah released Jenna's hand and stepped backwards. The phones tracked her retreat, the live feed following like a vulture circling its prey. She felt her reflection fragment across pixelated screens. Guests rose, pressing cameras to capture her every step. Jenna's mouth moved silently as if to protest, but Hannah held up a finger, motioning for calm. At the end of the hall, Leo raced forward, pounding the panel with desperate fists. "Hannah!" His voice cracked through the echo chamber, but she turned and left him behind, disappearing past the double doors into the night. The guests erupted into applause and camera flashes, heralding the exit of a bride and the collapse of a wedding. Outside under the inky sky, night air wrapped Hannah gently like a comforting blanket. She paused on steps to the garden, breath visible in lantern glow. Jenna came forward, concerned, but Hannah raised a hand to stop her. In the hush between fading wedding lights and distant traffic hum, she felt clarity bloom. Cameras captured her departure, but beyond their lenses lay freedom, a chance to define herself beyond broken vows and viral shame. With steady steps, she embraced the unknown night, leaving scandal behind. As the world watched through glowing screens, Leo's face became a still portrait of shock. In the grand reception hall, guests wavered between sympathy and fascination. Their phones paused mid-recording as they witnessed his paralysis. The moment his gaze locked on Hannah's disappearing silhouette, his expression froze, jaw slack, eyes glazed, as though time itself had halted. The band faltered, the pianist's fingers hesitating above ivory keys. At the head table, Victor Delgado exchanged a worried glance with Hannah's father. Cameras shifted back to Leo, his every nuance magnified. The projected image revealed Leo's forehead creased in disbelief, trust dissolving into regret. He dropped to one knee before the glass partition, pressing a palm flat against its surface, as if seeking passage. His other hand curled into a fist at his side. In that instant, the ballroom lights seemed to dim around him, the chatter receding to a distant hum. The harsh reality of his choice echoed in the hush. Hannah paused on the stair landing, her eyes meeting his through the pane. She saw years of shared laughter and whispered promises reflected in the depth of his despair. Yet beneath that sorrow, there lay a hint of desperation, an unspoken plea for forgiveness he did not deserve. Across the hall, guests formed pockets of onlookers, whispering fervent speculation. Phones captured every flicker on Leo's face, denial, fear, pain. Some guests recorded their own faces reacting, delighted by the candid scene. Others turned away, discomfort evident in their frowns. Jenna stood beside her, covering her mouth with trembling fingers. "Hannah, that's him," she whispered. "He looks like he's dying inside." Hannah remained motionless, her reflection merging with Leo's haunted eyes. She breathed deeply, steadying herself against a wave of conflicting emotions. Leo's voice came, a strangled whisper transmitted through speaker feedback crackle. "Hannah, please come back." The plea reverberated. His voice cracked, raw with regret. He lowered his head, lacing fingers through his hair. For a heartbeat he trembled, then lifted his face, eyes burning with urgency. He raised his arm, fingers splayed against the glass, trying to touch Hannah's silhouette. The barrier shimmered between them. He mouthed her name, each syllable heavy with remorse. Guests leaned forward, as if drawn by his silent agony. Then, abruptly, Leo's shoulders sagged. His head dropped to his chest, eyes closing as though overcome by grief. The lights flickered overhead. Someone in the crowd gasped. Phones dropped, screens redirecting to the live stream's replay function. The moment was sealed in digital eternity. Suddenly, the projector blinked off. The band resumed, playing a hesitant chord, but the spell had broken. The reception hall felt hollow. The empty space beyond the glass hung like an unhealed wound. Leo remained on bended knee, unmoving, expression locked in a mask of heartbreak. In that moment, the groom was transformed, reduced from center stage to a prisoner of his own actions. And the world watched on. Behind the cluster of tables, a hush fell as guests lowered their phones, suddenly aware of the gravity they'd witnessed. Some exchanged uneasy glances, guilt mixing with curiosity. A woman dabbed at her eyes with a napkin. A man swallowed hard. His bravado vanished. The staff froze collectively, horrified by their role as spectators in a personal tragedy. Leo's mother sank onto a chair, burying her face in trembling hands. Even Victor Delgado seemed lost for words, his celebratory smile gone. In that moment, Leo existed for the world's gaze, a man rulerless on a throne of shattered promises. The glass barrier had become a mirror, reflecting not just his face, but the consequence of every lie. In the hush that followed Leo's frozen silhouette, Hannah took a decisive step away from the glass partition. Each click of her heels echoed in the corridor, a rhythmic drum heralding her resolve. Jenna matched her pace, eyes glistening with sympathy. Leo's voice reached her through the glass, desperate and broken, but she walked swiftly past the revolving doors and into the grand entry hall. Guests filed after her, phones raised, curiosity dragging them behind like a train of shadows. Hannah paused at the exit, hand on the ornate brass handle. She inhaled deeply, the scent of night-blooming flowers drifting through the open doors. Leo appeared beside her, pressing his hand against the glass, as if wanting to follow. Hannah turned toward him, expression unreadable. Leo's eyes pleaded in silent apology. He mouthed, "I'm sorry." But the words were lost between them. She offered no answer, instead pivoted and stepped through the threshold, the guests following in gentle pursuit. Outside, a sea of well-wishers and gossipers awaited beneath strings of fairy lights. Cameras flashed as Hannah emerged into moonlit splendor. Reporters jostled for the best angle, their whispered questions swirling like insects. "Miss Caldwell, will you return to the reception?" "Mr. Brooks, what about your vows?" Hannah's lips pressed into a firm line. She raised a hand for silence. When the crowd fell hush, her voice rang clear. "I cannot return." A collective intake of breath coursed through the gathering. Leo stepped forward, only to be gently restrained by his mother. Hannah continued, "I need truth more than tradition. Tonight I choose honesty." Reporters scribbled furiously. Phones recorded her every syllable. A figure emerged from the shadows, Elise Grant, flanked by Alex Caldwell. Elise nodded at Hannah and extended an arm. "May I accompany you?" she asked softly. Hannah regarded her for a moment, surprised by the gesture. Then she placed her hand in Elise's, a quiet alliance forged beneath the stars. Jenna stepped into the frame, linking arms with Hannah and Elise. The three women stood united, a portrait of solidarity that stunned the onlookers. Leo watched from the doorway, sorrow etched across his face. His pleas were drowned by the crowd's gasps. Together, the trio moved away from the mansion, past the prying lenses and mounting whispers. Behind them, the grand doors closed with a sonorous click, marking the final act of a love undone. Cameras continued to flash, but their light grew dim against the certainty in Hannah's stride. As they disappeared down the garden path, the night embraced them. In that shared silence, Hannah sensed a fragile hope blossom, a promise that she would not walk alone into the unknown. And in that moment, she felt strength beyond what any wedding vow could offer. As they moved down the stone path, the soft crunch of gravel punctuated each determined step. Lanterns hung like suspended stars, guiding their way through the lush gardens. Elise spoke first, voice gentle. You showed more courage tonight than many show in a lifetime. Hannah glanced at her, absorbing the warmth in that unexpected solidarity. Jenna squeezed Hannah's hand. You are not defined by his mistakes, she said, voice fierce. The three paused beneath an archway draped in jasmine. Hannah inhaled the fragrant air, letting it anchor her. In the distance, the party lights glowed faintly, a reminder of promises broken and worlds changed. Yet as the night breeze whispered through the leaves, Hannah's heart stilled. For the first time since the ceremony, she felt free to write her own story. Behind them, murmurs of the reception lingered. Yet Hannah's resolve burned with lasting light. Under the warm glow of cafe string lights, Hannah Caldwell, Elise Grant, and Jenna Torres settled into a quiet corner at a bistro just blocks from the reception hall. The fragrant scent of roasted coffee beans mingled with jasmine on the breeze. Elise pulled a small velvet box from her purse and placed it on the table between them. Its presence felt like an accusation. Hannah's pulse throbbed. What is this? She asked, voice barely above a whisper. Elise opened the box to reveal a delicate gold band engraved with intertwined initials. Leo gave this to me 2 months ago, she said, her voice steady but laden with hurt. He told me he wanted to marry me. He said, when I'm ready, I'll make it official, and you'll be standing here in a dress like that, waiting for me. She tapped the ring's interior. I kept this because I believed him. Jenna leaned forward, eyes wide. But if he promised you marriage, why did he go through with our wedding today? Elise swallowed. I thought he was torn. He'd call me at odd hours, confessing doubt. He said he cared for both of us in different ways. She met Hannah's gaze. I deserve to know why he chose you over me, if that's what he actually did. Hannah felt cold rage mingle with a deep hurt. Why did you come forward tonight? She demanded. Why crash our wedding? Elise's eyes glistened. Because I couldn't stand by and let you walk down the aisle under false pretenses. I loved him, Hannah. I still do. And I couldn't live with myself if I stayed silent. Jenna pressed a hand to her mouth. I'm so sorry, Hannah. None of us saw this coming. Hannah closed her eyes, inhaling deeply. You said he made promises to you, she said slowly. I heard his vows today. Words I thought were only mine. I believed them. Elise nodded. He planned a rooftop dinner last month in candlelight. He got down on one knee, called me the love of his life, and spoke of a future together. That ring was supposed to be mine. A long silence fell. In the distance, muffled music drifted from the reception. Neither woman moved. Then Hannah spoke, voice low. Show me everything. Elise reached into her purse again and withdrew a small stack of photographs bound with a ribbon. I brought the photos, she said. They won't lie. Jenna offered Hannah a reassuring smile. You deserve the truth. Hannah slid from her seat without another word and took the ribbon bundle in trembling hands. Outside, the night air carried the faintest echo of a shattered wedding, of vows broken and hearts exposed. Within the safety of the cafe's warm lamps, 3 women prepared to unravel the secrets that would determine the course of all their lives. Hannah spread the stack of glossy photographs across the cafe table. Each captured intimate moments, Leo and Elise laughing over coffee, their foreheads touching, Leo's hand brushing Elise's hair back as they danced under city lights. A text message screenshot confirming dinner plans, plans Hannah had believed were only for her and Leo. Look at this one, Elise said gently, pointing to a photo taken inside Leo's apartment. Hannah traced the outline of Leo's silhouette in the kitchen, arms wrapped around Elise. The date stamp read Tuesday, 5 days before the wedding. Hannah's chest tightened. He invited you here 5 days ago. Elise nodded. He told me the vows were practice, that he needed to make sure he was ready. He said, you understand once I'm sure, it'll be forever. A tremor ran through Jenna. That is the same week the final invitations went out. She bit her lip. He didn't tell me he was seeing anyone else. Hannah picked up the next photo, Leo handing Elise a small bouquet of lilies. These are her flowers, she whispered. Lilies, the same flowers on my table. Elise swallowed. He said he wanted both of us to feel special, and mailed lilies to my office that morning. A third photo showed Leo and Elise standing beneath a city landmark, champagne flutes raised. The expression on Leo's face was tender, almost worshipful. Elise's voice cracked. He said, "I wanted you to know how much you mean to me before telling the world." Then I waited for the ring. Hannah's vision blurred. She ran her finger along the edge of a photograph, showing Leo's hand slipping the gold band onto Elise's finger. "When did that happen?" Elise closed her eyes. 3 weeks ago, as we watched the sunset." Hannah stood abruptly, sending chairs scraping. "He lied to me. Lied to all of us." Her voice shook with fury and anguish. Jenna rose too, placing a hand on Hannah's arm. "Please sit down. There's more." Hannah sank back, gripping the edge of the table. Elise produced another set of photos, screenshots of text messages. "Can't wait to see you tonight. I love you. We will be married soon." The cafe's other patrons glanced over, sensing tension. Hannah pressed her palms to her temples. "He used the same words for both of us." Elise met her eyes. "I didn't know until I saw those invitations. I thought there was some mistake." Hannah's breath caught. "He planned 2 weddings." Elise's voice was soft. "I refused to believe it until tonight." Silence fell heavy as the revelation settled. Jenna's eyes brimmed with tears. "We need to decide what to do." Hannah folded the photos carefully, her mind spinning. Outside, the warm lamps cast long shadows on the pavement. Inside, the truth lay bare. Leo's duplicity had shattered more than a wedding. It had fractured 3 women's lives. And now, they had to choose how to piece them back together. Back at the Grand Monarch Ballroom, the atmosphere had shifted from celebration to scrutiny. Murmurs rose as Leo Brooks re-entered the reception hall alone, clutching his tuxedo lapel. Guests formed clusters, their phones at the ready. Headlines had already begun trending online. Groom's secret fiancé crashes wedding. Victor Delgado stepped forward. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced, voice quivering. "Leo would like to say a few words." A hush fell. Leo ascended the small stage, hands trembling around the microphone. "Thank you," he began, voice unsteady. "I owe you all an explanation." He looked out at familiar faces, colleagues, cousins, lifelong friends, now clouded with betrayal. "I made mistakes. I hurt the woman I love, the woman I called my fiancée, and the woman I married today." A gasp rippled. Hannah stood at the back, flanked by Elise and Jenna. Elise's expression was impassive. Jenna's sharp intake of breath betrayed her anguish. Leo swallowed. I've been living 2 lives," he admitted. "One with Elise, one with Hannah." Voices rose in shock. "I convinced myself I could love both of you. I was wrong." He paused, choking back tears. "I know apologies aren't enough. I lied, I broke promises. And I understand if you never trust me again." A guest yelled, "How could you?" Another shouted, "You make me sick." Phones lifted higher, recording every moment. Leo's face fell. "I'm sorry." He stepped off the stage. The band struck a dissonant chord. The crowd parted to let him pass. As he moved, some guests thrust phones in his face. Others turned away in disgust. Hannah watched, heart pounding. She glimpsed her father's stern nod, a silent blessing to her strength. Elisa's eyes glistened with unshed tears. Leo reached the head table, his shoulders slumped. Patricia Brooks, Leo's mother, rose. "This is not who you are," she said, voice shaking. "But why?" Leo looked up at her, anguish in his eyes. "I was afraid of commitment," he confessed. "Afraid to choose." His word choice ignited fresh outrage. "You chose both," someone spat. Laughter rippled, harsh and mocking. Leo pressed a hand to his chest. "I loved you both in different ways," he said quietly. "I thought I could, but I can't." At that confession, the room fractured. Some guests wept, others shouted. The joyous reception had become a chaotic courtroom, with Leo as the defendant. Hannah felt a mixture of sorrow and relief. Leo's confession was brutal but honest. She realized closure lay somewhere in his shattered admission. As she stepped forward, Leo's gaze met hers, blank with regret. She straightened her spine, ready to face whatever came next. Backstage, behind heavy velvet curtains, Leo stood alone under a solitary spotlight. His reflection flickered on metallic door. He closed his eyes to steady himself, but the muffled echoes of the reception's chaos seeped through. John Carmichael, the venue manager, emerged from the shadows, his crisp uniform immaculate despite the evening's drama. "Mr. Brooks," he said, voice low. "May I have a word?" Leo nodded, his voice caught in his throat. John led him to a private control room, where monitors displayed live feeds from security cameras. In one screen, Leo's mother sat wailing. On another, Hannah, Elise, and Jenna prepared to leave. John's brow furrowed. "I've been in this business a long time. I've seen broken hearts and cold feet, but never anything like tonight." He leaned close. "Word travels fast. The police have called, wondering if they should intervene." Leo's heart pounded. "Police?" John sighed. "They came to check on your safety and the guests. They're satisfied it's just a domestic dispute, but they're monitoring." He straightened. "There's something else." He tapped a button. A phone on the desk buzzed. He answered it quietly. On speaker, a woman's voice crackled. "John, is this the Brooks wedding?" John's face paled. "Yes. Leo has a habit," the caller said. "You're not the first bride tonight. We filed a police report 2 months ago." Leo's blood ran cold. "What?" John covered the speaker. He turned to Leo. "That was Elise's sister, confirming Leo's engagement to her sister ended when she discovered our wedding when checking in here last month." Leo stared, disbelief and dread colliding. He did this before. John's voice was gentle but firm. "You've been blacklisted. No weddings at this venue. No more fans for your second lives." Leo sank to a chair, jaw unhinged. I never meant." John rested a hand on his shoulder. "Intentions don't matter when you break people's hearts." He shook his head. "I'll cancel your service contracts. You'll need to find another place, or none at all." Leo stared at the screens, his reflection fractured across monitors. On one, Hannah walked away with Elise and Jenna. On another, his own face froze in shock. The woman's voice buzzed again. "Good luck. You're going to need it." John ended the call. He retrieved the ring box from his jacket pocket and tossed it into a trash can. "That's for starters," he said quietly. Then he turned and left Leo to confront the full weight of consequences in the cold glow of that control room. A block from the venue, Hannah, Elise, and Jenna paused under a street lamp. The night had grown colder, and memories of the evening's revelations weighed heavily on them. Hannah absent-mindedly fingered the ribbon still tied around Elise's photographs. Jenna's composure fractured. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she exhaled shakily. "I can't do this anymore," she sobbed. "I knew something was off." Hannah and Elise exchanged a puzzled glance. "What do you mean?" Hannah asked softly. Jenna wiped her face on her sleeve. "I saw him texting you in secret," she said, voice cracking. "And I found receipts for lilies delivered to 2 different addresses, Elise's apartment and this venue." Her hands trembled. "I thought maybe I was overreacting. I didn't want to ruin your happiness." Hannah's eyes filled with sympathy and hurt. "Jenna." Elise stepped forward, taking Jenna's hands. "Why didn't you tell me?" Jenna looked away, guilt twisting her features. "I was afraid. Afraid you'd hate me. Afraid you wouldn't believe me." Hannah gently touched Jenna's arm. "You were trying to protect me." Her voice quivered. "But we needed the truth." Jenna sank to the curb, burying her face in her hands. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry." Hannah knelt beside her, pulling Jenna into a hug. Elise reached down to offer comfort as well. The 3 women clustered together beneath the pale street lamp, their shared pain weaving a bond of solidarity. Hannah stroked Jenna's hair. "You did what you thought was best." Jenna pulled back, eyes red. "I felt responsible for every bit of this mess." Elise settled beside them. "None of this is your fault," she said firmly. "We all believed him." Hannah rose, helping Jenna to her feet. She took a deep breath. "We have each other now. We'll figure this out together." Jenna nodded, tears shining in her eyes. Together. As they continued down the lamplit street, shoulder to shoulder, the cold night air felt strangely warming. They had weathered betrayal, scandal, and heartbreak. Though the path ahead remained uncertain, they knew that united by truth and friendship, they could redefine their futures on their own terms. Dawn's pale light crept through the sheer curtains of Hannah's apartment as her phone buzzed insistently on the nightstand. Groggy, she reached over and saw an unfamiliar number with a single message. "He did this to me too. Meet me at the Green Door Cafe in an hour." Her heart lurched. She tapped the contact name, unknown, and replied, "Who is this?" No response came. By the time she slid into a cab bound for the cafe, her mind spun with questions. How many women had Leo deceived? Was Elise truly the only other fiancée? Or was she merely the first to speak up? She clutched her purse strap like a lifeline. The Green Door Cafe was a cozy nook of exposed brick and potted ferns nestled on a quiet side street. Hannah pushed past the glass door and scanned the tables until she saw a woman seated alone in the corner. Older than Elise, perhaps in her mid-30s, dark curls streaked with auburn highlights. The woman's eyes were rimmed red, and in front of her lay a stack of wedding invitations and several framed photographs. Hannah approached slowly. The woman stood, extending a hand. "I'm Marisol Vega," she said, voice soft but resolute. "Leo's ex-fiancée." Hannah's breath caught. She slid into the booth. "How long ago?" she asked. Marisol gestured to a photograph, herself in a white gown standing beside Leo on a yacht deck. The date-stamped corner read March 2024, over a year before Hannah's October wedding. "He asked me to marry him 6 months before he met Elise. We were engaged for 4 months." Hannah reached out, fingertips brushing the picture's glossy surface. "Why did it end?" Marisol's gaze dropped. "He never ended it. I ended it the night I found out about you." She slid over a printed email confirmation. Leo had booked a table for anniversary dinner at the same Italian restaurant where he proposed to Marisol. But minutes before she arrived, the restaurant sent a cancellation notice. Leo had changed plans. Hannah felt bile rise. Marisol continued. "I called him. He told me he was sorry, that he was planning a surprise for me, and that I'd understand soon. But he never called back." Her voice trembled. "Weeks later, I saw your wedding invitation in my mailbox by mistake." Hannah's chest constricted. "He sent it to you?" Marisol nodded. "I thought maybe it was a joke, until I saw the date. 15 days after we broke up. He was marrying someone else." She tapped a photo of Leo embracing Elise in his apartment. "I tracked Elise down online. We compared notes." Hannah felt tears sting her eyes. "You and Elise, did you talk?" Marisol's lips quirked into a sad smile. "She reached out first. Said she didn't want to be the only one hurt. We realized we were part of a pattern." They sat in silence for a moment, the cafe's morning rush swirling around them. Hannah gazed at Marisol, gratitude and sorrow mingling in her chest. "Thank you for telling me." Marisol closed her eyes. "I didn't want you to think you were alone." She reached into her bag and pulled out a small black binder. "I kept everything. Text transcripts, hotel receipts, photos. If you ever need proof." Hannah accepted the binder, her fingers brushing Marisol's. "I will," she whispered. "I'm so sorry." Marisol shrugged, tears glistening. "We'll move on. But we deserve to know the truth and demand accountability." Her voice hardened into resolve. "I'm going to file a police report. He's been engaging multiple women under false pretenses. That's fraud." Hannah nodded, heart pounding. "I'll go with you." As they stood, the afternoon sun spilled through the windows in golden shafts. 2 women, bound by betrayal, stepped out into the day together. Though their lives had been fractured by the same man, in sharing their stories they found solidarity and the first flicker of justice. That evening, Hannah returned home exhausted, the weight of Marisol's revelations pressing on her chest like a stone. She turned on her laptop to check email and froze. Her inbox brimmed with notifications, hundreds of mentions, tags, and direct messages. The top email bore the subject line, Video uploaded, full unedited footage. Hands shaking, Hannah clicked. The video launched on a streaming site. The entire wedding fiasco, from Elisa's first interruption to Leo's confession, edited with dramatic music and tagged #WeddingScandal and #GroomOfLies. The view count already soared into the tens of thousands. Comments scrolled at lightning speed. He's trash. Heartbreaker. She deserves better. Lawyer up. Hannah felt her stomach drop. How had someone obtained the raw footage? Moments later, she opened a private message on a social platform. I have more. Video from Leo's apartment. Want proof? Pay me. The sender's handle was @TruthSeekeranon. Anger flared. Hannah closed her laptop and paced the living room. Should she pay? Would that even stop them? She sank onto the couch, phone trembling in her hand. Jenna's name flashed on the screen. Jenna, she texted. We need to talk. Urgent. Within minutes, Jenna arrived, concern etched on her face. Hannah showed her the video. Someone's monetizing his betrayal, she said, voice tight. And they have more footage. Jenna's eyes widened. We can't let them profit off this. We need to counteract. Hannah nodded. I'll post my own video, my side of the story. I'll expose the truth first. Over the next hour, they drafted a statement. Hannah speaking directly to the camera, recounting Leo's pattern of deceit, Marisol's involvement, Elisa's courage, and her own journey to find the truth. Jenna filmed, offering gentle coaching. Look into the lens. Speak from the heart. Once recorded, they uploaded the unedited video to Hannah's newly created channel, titled My Truth, Beyond the Wedding Day. They shared links across social media, tagging major news outlets and influencers. Within minutes, notifications pinged. View counts climbed. Comments flooded in this time, voices of solidarity. Thank you for speaking up. Your courage is inspiring. I'm so sorry this happened. Meanwhile, the anonymous uploader's video continued to spread, sensational but soulless. But Hannah's video struck a chord, raw honesty, no soundtrack, no dramatic cuts, just her voice. By midnight, the #MyTruth had begun trending alongside #WeddingScandal. Screenshots of Hannah's video posted across platforms outnumbered those of @TruthSeekeranon. Hannah sat back, exhaustion washing over her. Jenna placed a supportive hand on her shoulder. You reclaimed your narrative, she said softly. Hannah exhaled. He may have started this, but I decide how it ends. As the city slept, the digital world buzzed with two competing narratives, one driven by exploitation, the other by empowerment. And in that battle for the truth, Hannah found her voice and ignited a movement. The morning after the video uploads, Leo found himself standing at the threshold of the family home he had known since childhood. Only now it felt like a fortress he no longer belonged to. The front door swung open to reveal his mother, Patricia Brooks, arms crossed and eyes cold. Leo, she said flatly, we need to talk. Inside, the living room was tense. His father, Robert Brooks, sat rigidly on the sofa, briefing a family friend who was a lawyer. The corporal structures of loyalty and support had crumbled overnight. Patricia's voice trembled with restrained fury. I watched you humiliate Hannah and wreck your name online. You offered apologies, but when was the last time you apologized to your own family? Leo's throat tightened. Mom, please. Save it, she snapped. I've seen the posts. My phone exploded with messages demanding action. My clients, my reputation, everything is tarnished because of you. Robert stood, face red. This isn't only about your wedding day. You've deceived more women than we knew. Your name is mud. His voice cracked. My reputation is tied to yours, Leo. The family friend slid a document across the coffee table. This is a cease and desist for defamation, the lawyer said. They're accusing you of fraud, booking venues, accepting deposits, promising marriage with no intention of fulfilling. Leo sank into a chair. I never meant to defraud anyone. The lawyer shook his head. Intent doesn't matter. There's a pattern. You've got 15 days to respond or face legal action. Patricia folded her arms. You're done receiving bailouts from us. We'll cover initial legal fees, but after that, good luck. Leo's eyes flicked to his father for mercy. Robert's face remained impassive. "Our priority now is damage control," he said. "You'll move out. The house isn't yours anymore." Leo's world spun. He opened his mouth, unable to form words. Patricia's final words cut deeper than any lawsuit. "You've lost the trust of every woman you claim to love, our daughter included. Until you fix this, you have no place here." They escorted him to the front door. Leo's suitcase lay by the staircase, packed by his mother the night before. He retrieved it silently, his stomach churning with shame. As the door closed behind him, the Brooks family estate stood silent. Inside, two people, once bound by love and blood, turned their backs on the only son they knew. Outside, Leo breathed the cool morning air, the echo of their rejection ringing louder than any courtroom verdict. Late that afternoon, Hannah and Marisol finalized their police report at the local precinct. As they walked out, they saw Leo waiting under a street lamp outside, his shoulders slumped, face pale. Before Hannah could speak, a car pulled up, her father, Raymond Caldwell, stepping out with purposeful strides. "Leo Brooks," he called, voice low and dangerous. "We need to talk." Leo's head snapped up. "Mr. Caldwell." Raymond cut him off. "Don't Mr. Caldwell me." He advanced until the two men were nose to nose. "You hurt my daughter. You hurt my family's name. Do you have any idea what you've done?" Leo swallowed. "Sir, Raymond's fist clenched at his side. "Save it. I watched the video. My little girl reduced to tears in public. You humiliated her. You lied to her. You lied to every woman you claim to love." Leo's voice cracked. "I'm sorry." Raymond's face contorted with fury. "Sorry isn't good enough." He jabbed a finger toward Leo's chest. "I raised Hannah to love honestly and fiercely. You were supposed to protect her." Tears welled in Leo's eyes. "I know I failed." Raymond's sword-like gaze never softened. "If you ever come near her again, I'll make sure you regret it." He paused, voice dropping. Thank God she found women who stood by her side instead of him. Leo's shoulders slumped. "Thank you for being who you are." Raymond spat to the side. "Go, before I call the police on you." Leo turned to Hannah, eyes pleading. She met his gaze and shook her head, voice steady though her heart thudded in her chest. "Goodbye, Leo." He pivoted and walked away, suitcase dragging behind him. Hannah watched until he disappeared around the corner. Then she slipped her arm through Marisol's. Together, they climbed into her father's car, leaving Leo standing alone on the sidewalk, haunted by the consequences of his choices. By the following morning, the scandal had become global news. Hannah woke to her phone buzzing nonstop, alerts from major news outlets, blog reposts, even morning shows teasing wedding fiasco footage. She blinked at the screen. The viral video had racked up over 5 million views, trending on every platform under #Groomgate and #WeddingShame. She scrolled through articles, pundits debating the ethics of online shaming, relationship experts weighing in on emotional infidelity, hashtags igniting waves of solidarity, screenshots from her own My Truth video peppered Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Comments poured in with messages of support and admiration for her courage. Meanwhile, Leo's name flooded search results. Groom of Lies became his unwanted moniker. Headlines read, "Billionaire bridegroom unmasked." "Man juggling 3 fiancés faces fraud claims." "Family cuts ties after wedding scandal." Hannah exhaled. She felt both overwhelmed and strangely empowered. Jenna knocked on her door, eyes bright behind a mask of exhaustion. "You ready?" she asked, holding up 2 coffees. "We've got interviews lined up." Hannah took a coffee. "Let's do it." Later, as she spoke candidly to a morning news crew, no makeup, hair in a loose braid, voice steady, viewers watched a woman who refused to be a victim. She shared her journey from blind trust to fierce self-respect, credited Elise and Marisol for standing by her, and urged viewers to hold people accountable. By midday, her segment clipped on social media. The hashtag #HannahSpeaks trended alongside #MyTruth. People shared her words, praising her dignity amid chaos. That evening, television producers and publishers reached out with offers. Live-style interviews, book proposals, speaking engagements, all opportunities for Hannah to shape the narrative further. She paused over an email subject line. Opportunity. TEDx talk. She looked at Jenna. This started as my worst day ever. She sipped her coffee. But if I can use it to help others feel less alone. Jenna smiled. You're already doing it. Hannah set down the cup. Tomorrow, I'll record more episodes. There's power in telling our stories, honestly, together. As the sun dipped below the skyline, social media lights pulsed like embers across the globe. The video that began as a wedding disaster had sparked a revolution in accountability and solidarity. And for Hannah Caldwell, the woman who refused to be silenced, the overnight virality marked not just an end, but a bold new beginning. The morning after her viral statement, Hannah woke to silence. Her apartment, once filled with phone alerts, lay still, no ringing, no messages. The world had moved on, but inside her chest, a storm raged. She dressed quickly, slipping into a simple blouse and jeans, then tucked her phone into her bag without sending a single text. Outside, she paused at the threshold, inhaling the crisp dawn air. The city's bustle felt distant, taxi horns and chatter reduced to background noise. She stepped off the curb and began walking, not toward any destination, but simply away. Each footfall echoed her resolve. She needed space to breathe, to think, to heal. Back at the cafe where she and Elise first compared photos, chairs sat empty, leftover coffee cups abandoned on tables. No barista called out her order. No familiar faces offered concern. Jenna's frantic messages piled up on her screen. Where are you? Are you okay? But Hannah ignored them. She was slipping through the cracks of her own life. By mid-morning, Elise grew worried. She called Marisol. They rendezvoused outside Hannah's building, scanning the street. Elise scowled at the empty sidewalk. She wouldn't just ghost us, she murmured, voice tight with fear. Behind them, a courier delivered a bouquet of white lilies to Hannah's door. No card. Elise recognized the blooms, the same flowers Leo had sent to both her and Hannah. Inside the apartment building's lobby, the security desk showed no sign of Hannah's departure. The guard shrugged. No unusual visitors. She didn't check in any deliveries besides those flowers. Elise's heart sank. Marisol placed a hand on her shoulder. Let's get a cab. We'll find her. Hours passed as they combed familiar streets. The park where Hannah jogged, the bookstore where she studied, the small art gallery downtown. Each corner bore traces of her presence. A discarded coffee sleeve, a folded city map, a slip of paper marked, I need time. No sign of her. At dusk, Jenna arrived, eyes red and exhausted. She clutched a stack of printed posts. Theories on blogs claiming Hannah had run off with a secret lover. Accusations she was staging drama for more attention. Elise threw them to the sidewalk. This isn't her. As night fell, they returned to the apartment, discovering the single shoe by the front door and Hannah's phone left charging on the nightstand, battery at 47%. A sense of dread settled in Elise's chest. Marisol found a folded note on the dining table, written in Hannah's loopy script. I need to find myself away from the chaos. Don't look for me. Elise picked it up with trembling fingers. Jenna's voice shook. She doesn't know what she's done. In the empty apartment, the bouquet's lilies wilted in the fading light, petals dropping like unanswered questions. Outside, the city lights blinked on. Hannah was gone, and with her, the fragile hope that this story might end peacefully. The next morning, while police filed a missing person report, a courier arrived at Elise's door bearing a single, embossed envelope. The return address read simply, H.C. Elise's hand shook as she slit the envelope open. Inside lay a handwritten letter on creamy stationery, folded neatly. Dearest friends, if you are reading this, I have walked far beyond the noise and glare of screens and expectations. I carry gratitude for the solidarity you have shown me. I also carry sorrow for the wounds left behind, my own and those I never meant to hurt. Elise's breath hitched. She read on. This isn't a goodbye forever, but a promise that I will return, whole and true to myself. I need to explore the parts of me drowned out by judgment and scandal. I need to stand alone before I can stand beside anyone else. Marisol, standing nearby, whispered, "She needs time." Elise nodded, tears stinging. Hannah's letter continued, "In my absence, please forgive me for the fear I've caused. To Leo, I leave this. May you discover the value of honesty before it's too late. To my father, I leave my love, unwavering though it may tremble under betrayal's weight. To Jenna and Elise, I leave my eternal gratitude. Your courage gave me strength when I believed nothing could save me." A pause in her script, a plea for compassion. "I hope one day you see beyond the viral moments and remember the woman I strive to be, not merely the bride in scandal. Until we meet again, may you guard the truth fiercely, live boldly, and love without apology." With a final flourish, the letter was signed simply, Hannah. Elise folded the paper, pressing it to her chest. Outside, the city hummed with life, trains rattling, sirens singing in the distance, life moving on. But inside Elise's apartment, time stood still. Marisol reached for Elise's hand. "We'll wait for her," she said softly. Jenna entered, drawn by the hush. Elise handed her the letter. Jenna's voice cracked. "She sounds so peaceful." Elise exhaled. "She's healing." As dawn broke, the bouquet of lilies rested on the coffee table, petals glowing in morning light. Hannah's letter lay beside them, a bridge between absence and hope, between rupture and restoration. And in that quiet, Elise and Marisol resolved to honor Hannah's request, to guard the truth, to wait patiently, and to believe in her promise of return. 3 weeks later, Elise and Marisol stood beside the press barricade outside City Hall. Cameras clicked and roared as Hannah emerged from the courthouse entrance, looking markedly different, lighter, as if a burden had been lifted. She wore a simple white shirt, her hair pulled back, no trace of wedding day finery. Reporters surged forward. Elise gripped Marisol's arm. "She's ready," she whispered. Hannah stepped up to the microphone, paused, and gazed at the crowd. Silence fell. Then, facing the assembled media, she spoke with calm authority. "Thank you all for being here. This statement isn't about recounting scandal. It's about accountability, growth, and the power of community support." A reporter called, "Miss Caldwell, why now?" Hannah exhaled. "I needed time away from the glare to understand what happened, and to decide how I wanted my story told." Her gaze swept the cameras. "The past month has taught me that healing cannot be rushed or forced. It can only be nurtured through honesty, forgiveness, and an unwavering commitment to personal truth." Flashes popped. Hannah continued, "I stand here today not as a victim, but as a survivor. I have reconnected with friends, rebuilt relationships with my family, and discovered passions that extend beyond wedding gowns and viral videos." She paused, taking in the faces before her. To anyone who has felt trapped by their mistakes or defined by their lowest moments, know this: your story is still being written. You have the power to redefine yourself every day. Reporters scribbled furiously. Cameras zoomed in on her serene expression. She addressed the ex-fiancés turned friends. "Elise and Marisol, thank you for walking beside me in this journey. Your courage gave me courage." Elise and Marisol, standing to the side, shared a proud glance. Jenna, who had driven the arrangement, lifted a small banner reading, "Truth over Trauma." Hannah's voice softened. "I offer forgiveness to those who wronged me, and I ask for the opportunity to rebuild, not to forget, but to learn. I plan to launch a foundation today, the Honest Heart Initiative, to support survivors of emotional betrayal and to educate on the importance of consent, honesty, and support in relationships." A reporter asked, "When will you begin?" "Today," she answered firmly. "Applications open this Friday. Partners and sponsors will be announced next week." Another question. "Will you ever return to Leo?" Hannah's eyes hardened with resolve. "My future is mine to create. My focus now is here." She tapped her chest. "With this heart." The crowd erupted into applause. As microphones were shoved toward her, she stepped away, raising a hand in thanks. Later, Elise hugged her, voice cracking with pride. "You were amazing." Hannah smiled, tears glinting in her eyes. "We did it." On a crisp morning, 6 weeks after the public statement, envelopes arrived at Elise's and Marisol's doorsteps, identical cards embossed in gold foil. You are cordially invited to a ceremony of love and renewal. Hannah Caldwell. Elise gasped, clutching the invitation. Marisol stared in disbelief. Jenna, standing behind them, lifted her eyebrows. She's really doing it. They gathered at Elise's kitchen table, sipping tea. The invitation detailed a small beach ceremony at dawn next Saturday. No venue, no champagne brunch, just Hannah, her closest friends, and a symbolic vow to herself. Marisol smiled wistfully. A wedding to herself. Elise nodded. She said once, I married myself. The moment of healing and self-love. Jenna leaned forward. I'll help with arrangements. I know someone who arranges barefoot beach ceremonies. The 3 women laughed, imagining Hannah exchanging vows of self-empowerment, promises to honor her needs, to protect her heart, to celebrate her worth. That night, Hannah stood on her balcony overlooking the ocean under a sliver moon. She pressed the invitation to her heart and whispered, This time, I marry myself. At dawn, the sky blushed with coral and rose as Hannah strode barefoot across the shore, white gauze gown billowing in the breeze. Elise, Marisol, and Jenna formed a semicircle, lanterns casting warm halos around them. No guests, no cameras, just sand, sea, and the promise of a new beginning. Hannah approached a driftwood arch adorned with lilies and shells. In the sand lay 2 sets of footprints, one hers, one unseen. She placed her hand over her heart, drawing a breath rich with emotion. With a gentle smile, she began her vows. I, Hannah Lorraine Caldwell, vow to love myself fiercely, to honor my journey with compassion, to hold my own heart tenderly through every storm and sunshine. I promise to speak truth, to choose growth, and to celebrate my worth each day. Tears glimmered on her cheeks as she concluded. I marry myself whole, authentic, unbroken. Behind her, Elise released a handful of flower petals. Marisol lit a lantern. Jenna rang a tiny bell. The sound rang pure in the dawn air. As Hannah turned to her friends, they embraced, their laughter and tears mingling with the gentle surf. In that moment, her story found its true happy ending, not defined by a groom's promise, but by her own steadfast vow. And somewhere beyond the horizon, a new day rose, bright with possibility, shaped by honesty, and guided by the woman who finally learned to stand alone, yet never truly alone again. I hope you enjoyed this story. Please like, comment, and share. Also turn on the bell to get more of our videos. See you in the next story.